I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Morris Township Board of Adjustment for Monday, June 24th, 2024. The legal notice required in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act has been satisfied, and a statement certifying same will be executed. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Ms. Santiago, roll call.
Mr. Goldberg.
Here.
Mr. Benoit.
Here.
Mr. Kramer.
Here.
Mr. Woodford.
Here.
Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Ms. Taylor. Yes. And I, Sonia Santiago, here. Mr. Rolla.
I'm here.
Okay. Next, we have BA-17-23, 40 Springbrook Road. And this is only to set a date, is that correct?
Yes, Michael Ewing's application, the only purpose is to set the next meeting date.
Okay, and at this time, we have not been able to establish a date for a special meeting.
Correct. That idea is still out there and open, so we're going to assign them to a regular meeting date.
And that meeting date would be in September. What would be that date, Ms. Santiago?
23.
September 23rd.
So the Ewing application for 40 Springbrook Road would be carried to September 23rd, the regular meeting. In the event that we are able to get a quorum for a special meeting and Mr. Ewing and his experts are available, he would have to give notice as required by law. Anything to add, Mr. Oler?
Well, just at the September 23rd meeting is without further notice.
Right.
So if that date changes and it's earlier, there'll be a notice with respect to an earlier date.
Okay. Any member of the public have any questions on that?
So, Mr. Woodford, that if it doesn't be the September date, it would
You
be.
got to identify yourself,
Sure.
Mr. Nugent, even though we know who you are.
So, Tony Nugent, 38. Okay, so.
Tony Nugent, 38 Springbrook Road. So if it's not the September date, the date we would receive that in the mail. So,
Yes, as the certified mailing is required.
okay, very good. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So Mr. Williams has taken a seat on the board and is now present. The next matter is BA-5-24. Ms. Santiago.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is DA-05024, Rita Fan. Block 8104, lot 51, 18 Great Burn Way in the RA 15 zone for section C. The applicant proposes construction of a one-story addition that creates a right side yard setback of 17.8 feet where 20 feet is required, and a combined side yard setback of 36.3 feet where 50 is required. The applicant will also seek a variance relief for the expansion of an existing non-conforming structure.
Okay. You are Ms. Grant? And who else will be testifying?
Okay. Would you,
Rita, can you turn that microphone on? Just press the button down until the green light comes on. There you go.
There you
It's
are.
on.
Sorry, it's my architect, Joe Marchese.
okay, would you both please stand, and Kate, I may as well swear you at the same time. Would you all please stand, raise your right hand, and Dave, sorry. You solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And would you each just state your names for the record, please?
Rita Fan.
Joseph Marchese.
Kate Keller, Close Nice.
Dave Anderson. Township Engineer.
Thank you.
So we, and Mr. Marchese is here as the architect.
Yes.
Mr. Marchese, could you just give us the benefit of your credentials, please?
Yes. I practice in Morris County. I graduated from NJIT with a Bachelor of Architecture in '93. I passed my registration exam in 2000. I opened my practice in 2002. My license is current and in good standing. I've appeared before the boards with Justin Chatham, Madison, Wayne, Milburn, and a bunch of other towns.
Okay, we'll accept you as an expert in architecture. Ms. Daniel, you can receive.
Thank you. My house was built in 1959, which is when my family moved to the township. As part of some improvements to both the interior and the exterior of the house, I would like to rebuild the garage. In the original design of the house, the entrance to the garage was supposed to be perpendicular to the front door, with a driveway curving in from the street. That was a popular design back then. Instead, the entrance was moved so that the doors would be facing the street with a driveway straight in from the curb. The roof, however, was not adjusted for this change, so the garage has always had a lopsided look, with the right side having a longer and a lower roof line and a shorter wall. The wall on that side is just over 5 feet. And you can see this unevenness on the first page of the site plan. With the proposed reconstruction, the garage will be reframed to have a much nicer symmetric appearance and will improve the overall appearance of the house. And this is shown on the 4th page of the plans. The plan also calls for increasing the length of the garage by 3 feet and the width by 1 foot to accommodate some additional storage and more clearance when opening car doors. The proposed increase in length meets the requirements for front yard setback in the RA15 zone that I'm in. But that small 1 foot addition to the width requires variances because it is below the minimum for right side and combined side yard setbacks. And because the existing structure is non-conforming also for right and combined side yard setbacks, I also require bulk variance relief for the modification and expansion.
And you also propose the extension, is that correct?
Yes, but that does not require a variance. It's within the setback.
So it's just the garage that we're concerned with?
Just the 1 foot on the garage is what's in question. I mean, there's some other upgrades to the house.
Right, but they don't require.
They don't
that.
require variance.
So just this 1 foot expansion towards the property line.
Yes.
Board members, any questions?
So you're moving the center of the garage roof is moving over.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, when I look at the pictures on page sheet 1, the top picture obviously is different from the middle picture.
It's just a different angle.
What's the difference there?
It's just the photo is taken from a different angle. That's all.
Well, I see that dormer in the back area. Yeah, where the kitchen is, I don't see it. Huh. No, I
When you're looking straight on, you don't see that.
wow.
You only see it on the side.
Okay.
It's not a dormer. It's just,
It's because of how the roof is pitched.
Right.
I think that kind of hides it. Okay. No further questions.
Any other board members with questions?
Sonia, this is what I'm talking about. See
Clarification,
this?
Yes,
It's not fair.
there was no variance needed for the front yard.
no, there's no variance needed for the front yard, just for the side yard, the 1 foot further and
And the
further.
combined side.
They combine side.
And that's the pre-existing non-conforming.
That's correct.
Yeah, front yard's 53 and a half.
Any other board members with questions? Any member of the public with any questions? And Mr. Martinez, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just like to add that the impervious and building coverage are,
Can you use the microphone, please? Thank you.
would just like to add that the impervious coverage and the building coverage do conform to the requirements of the RA 15, and it's a minimal addition to the structure. The redesign of, we've kept the roof pitch low, so the garage will not overpower the front elevation. And with it being symmetrical now, it presents a much nicer look to the whole area.
Have you spoken with your neighbor concerning this? The neighbor to your right?
No,
Have they contacted you regarding it?
no.
Okay. Any members of the public with any questions of either the applicant or the architect? Seeing none, hearing none? Oh, I'm sorry, board members, any questions of the architect? None? All right. I see this as a very minimal intrusion and really does enhance the layout of the house and the garage and makes the garage much more feasible and usable. And I'd be in favor of granting these variances as required. And if other members are in agreement, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the application.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg?
Yes.
Mr. Benoit?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Woodford?
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you so much.
So we will have a resolution for you at the next meeting, and after that, you can apply for your permits. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Good luck.
Next application is BA-06-24, Thomas Giordano.
Next application is PA-0624, Thomas Giordano, block 9202, lot 7, 17 Arrowhead Road, in the R835 zone for section C. The applicant proposes construction of a one-story addition that creates a front yard setback on the Honeymoon Lane of 64.8 feet where 75 feet is required, and a front yard setback on Arrowhead Road for the front portico of 46.5 feet where 75 feet is required. The applicant will also seek a variance relief for the extension of the non-conforming structure.
Is there Wi-Fi?
The Wi-Fi is on the front, that's right there.
Did you receive, you're not within,
I went over that with Mr. Goldberg. He's not within 200 feet.
all right.
All right.
You're on the whole street.
Okay, just give us a second. We'll join the meeting here so we can share. think we're in the meeting.
Okay.
All right, then, I don't see anything. You haven't put anything up yet?
Can I share screen or,
Yes.
okay? I don't see that.
Bottom middle?
No, raise hand. I don't see the typical share screen capture. We can also, if you have the plans, I can obviously just go without the visual and we'll follow along with the plans. Oh, here we go. I think it's working now as a panelist. I used the code that Santiago provided. Here we go.
All right, so then,
Yeah, success.
before we get too far, can you all stand again,
Yes.
please? Raise your right hands. Yep. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. And again, if everyone just state your names for the record, please.
Ciro Prisco Tarquinio, to the 1200.
Tom Giordano.
Okay, everyone, thank you. All right, so would you just spell your name for me,
Sure.
please?
First name Ciro, Siro. Middle name Prisco, Prisco. Last name Tarquinio, T as in Tom, Arquinio. That'll be the hardest thing we'll talk about tonight.
All right. All right, and you're testifying in what capacity?
I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I have a master's degree from NJIT. My license is active and in good standing, and I've testified in front of several boards such as Westfield, Milburn, Montclair, and others.
All right, we'll accept you as an expert in the field of architecture. You may proceed.
Mr. Woodford, if possible, just my fiance Andrea is behind me. She did not raise her hand, but she may have contribute to some questions I may not be able to answer because she was much more involved in the project.
Well, then why don't we swear you in as well? Won't you
Thank you
stand,
so
raise
much.
your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
And would you state your name, please?
Andrea Manna,
And would you spell your last name, please?
Manna.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you. Good evening. As Mr. Santiago mentioned, we're discussing the property at 17 Arrowhead Road. It's in an RA 35 single-family residential zone. The lot is about a 1 acre lot. I have here in front of us the existing survey. This survey was created in 2014 when my clients purchased the property. All of the improvements shown on the survey are current and depicts the exact existing condition.
And this is what we have in our packet, right?
This survey was provided as a signed and sealed copy of the survey, and then I have this survey with overlay proposed on the front sheet of the architectural set.
Okay. I'm not going to mark it then.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. This is a corner lot. We are fronting on Arrowhead Road and Honeymoon Lane. The required setbacks on those two streets for front yard setback are 75 feet on each street. The existing structure is existing non-conforming by quite a bit. The house distance to Arrowhead Road is about 50 feet, 41.1 on one corner, 50.7 on the other corner. And on Honeymoon Lane, the right side of the house, which is the garage side of the house, is 45.1 feet from the road, and the other corner, 52.3 from the road. So the majority of the existing structure is beyond the allowable front yard setback. You will see in the proposed that we're proposing two small additions to this house. One is a very small front overhang over the existing front stoop. That, of course, needs a variance for front yard setback. The other addition is also a very small addition in the back of the house for a laundry and mudroom addition that will partially displace a small area of pavers in the back. And that also needs a front yard setback variance from Honeymoon Lane. Ooh.
Ignore it, it'll go away.
You know what, if everybody has plans in front of them, I think we can follow one of the plans, it doesn't seem to be reconnecting. So from your architectural set that was provided, the block coverage sheet, table C dash 0.0. We have the same survey, they've overlaid and proposed additions on the right side of the page. On this map, we're delineating more clearly the 75-foot front yard setback from both streets. I'm gonna try to connect, because if I could push this along and take my cursor, it'll be better. While we wait, I'll continue on this proposed survey. So if you can see the small shaded area in front of the house, that's the overhang. Just to clarify, that overhang is 24 square feet, it's 8 feet wide, and only 3 feet projection. It's supported by brackets, as we'll see on the elevations, it has no columns, and it's just being proposed over the existing stoop. The area in the back that is shaded, that is the mudroom laundry addition, that's happening on the ground level. That addition is 168 square feet. If we move quickly to the zoning chart, which is just to the left of the survey, I just want to go over all the other statistics. Lot area width and depth, of course, no issues there, we conform. Front yard setback, as I mentioned, will need variance relief for front yard on both streets. We'll need a variance for proposing 46.5 for the overhang where 75 is required, and proposing 64.8 from the mudroom addition over to Honeymoon Lane where 75 is required. No variance required for side yard setback, the side yard is on the left side of the house is conforming and there's no work proposed in that area. Impervious coverage, no issues there, 35% is allowed, the existing is about 11.8. The proposed is 11.9, again, a very small addition. Rear yard setback, 50 feet is required, the house is conforming with 121 and change. The proposed rear addition will shorten that slightly to 115, but still well within conformance. Building coverage allowed 15%, existing 5.1, proposed 5.4. No change in building height because the addition is a one-story addition, it's much lower than the existing structure, and no change in building height. If we turn the page, because I think we gave up on trying to do the zoom. We'll move on to the floor plans. Page C0.1 is the existing basement and garage floor. This is just for context, so if we're looking at this plan on the right side, those are the garage doors that are facing Honeymoon Lane. As you can see, it really only fits kind of 1.5 cars. The second bay is very short, and it's even made worse by a powder room that was added to the house, likely at some point. Coming in from the garage is a very small and tight laundry room area, and then you can go up into the other levels of the house. The bulk of the work that we are proposing is to enlarge that laundry room and remove that powder room to make room for a better garage, with a workable garage. We go to the next page. This is the proposed plan for this level. You can see we're proposing to remove the powder room, and the addition will now house a more reasonably sized laundry room, just big enough for a washer, dryer, and cabinetry and a sink and some storage. We are relocating the powder room a little bit into the addition space to the rear. And we're creating a little better, a little more room with the drop-off area with some closets and cubbies and a bench. Again, the total amount of addition here is 168 square feet, so very small, reasonable addition. Moving on to the next page, this is the first floor plan. First and second is the split level. The only work that is proposed here, which you see on the following page, is interior work. It doesn't affect the zoning and the variances. It doesn't affect the access, but just to give you some context, we're proposing to remove the kitchen and flip the dining room, family room locations. The bedrooms are going to stay unchanged, the office will stay unchanged, the sunroom will stay unchanged, so some new windows in the house. You'll see those on the next page, going to Z1.0. You can see here, we're renovating the kitchen, and again, the family room space that was in the front of the house is not going to be in the back of the house, enjoying more of the backyard. And the dining room space that was in the rear is not going to be located to the front. Again, these are all interior renovations, but just for context. On this sheet, we can see the roof line looking at the addition in the back. And you can also see dashed in, we're showing the 8-foot wide by 3-foot deep roof overhang. It's really not porch, doesn't have columns, you'll see it on the elevations. And that is actually shorter than the existing front masonry stoop. On the next sheet, we can see elevations of the house, the existing elevations of the house. The top elevation is the front of the house. So that front door right now has 0 cover from the elements. So we're proposing to add overhang there, which you see on the page, both for cover and a little curved heel. And on the right side elevation, you can see the side of the house facing Honeymoon Lane with the garage doors, and that elevation on the next page shows the addition. So on sheet Z2.1, the top elevation, you can see that proposed overhang supported by decorative and structural brackets. The height of the bottom of the overhang is about 9 feet off of grade, which is matching the existing roof line of the house. And again, the width of it is 8 feet wide. The lower elevation now shows on the side of the garage, but pushed back from the garage facade, is that laundry room, mudroom addition. One thing that's important to note here is that this is pushed back as far as it could from Honeymoon Lane, and does not encroach onto that primary setback any more than the existing structure does. The next sheet is more existing elevations. The top page C3.0, the top elevation is existing rear of the house. So that door on the left side of the plan. If we're looking at the side, the rear edge of the garage, that is where the mudroom addition is being proposed. And then the bottom elevation is the left side elevation, which is really unchanged, other than the new windows. The next sheet, C 3.1, the rear elevation shows the addition. As you can see, we have a new door going into the laundry room. The window to the left of that door is into the laundry room. We kept the roof line really as low as possible. It's a fairly low pitch, it's 4 on 12 front to back. And we're keeping the roof line low, obviously, to allow the windows on the second floor to still have view and natural light and air. But also to keep the addition as small as possible so that it's least visible from the road. On the rear of the house, we are proposing another little overhang over the rear door that will essentially match what we're doing in the front. But this overhang is within the allowable building envelope and does not require any variances. On the bottom elevation, at either end, we can see those two overhangs. So if we look on the right side of that left side elevation, you can see the side view of that proposed front roof overhang. And on the left side of that elevation, you can see that rear overhang. That's basically the project. A couple of things that I just wanted to point out. As far as the front overhang, we think that it's consistent with the character of the neighborhood. The ordinance, in fact, encourages porches and overhangs, and does have an exception for overhangs that can project past the front setback. We can meet 2 of the 3 criteria. We're not wider than 8 feet, we're not deeper than 5 feet. However, we cannot meet the maximum 6-foot projection past the front yard setback because obviously the entire building is past the front yard setback. We do believe we are designing within the spirit of that ordinance. As far as the rear addition, as I mentioned, we're keeping it as small as possible, well-sized in proportion relative to the existing structure, and the least visible from the road as possible. And I think that's it. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Board members, any questions? It's explained very clearly.
Without Zoom.
Not to any members of the public with any questions? Seeing none, hearing none, close the public portion.
Just to be clear, so the variance is 2 front yard setbacks,
That's correct.
nothing else.
That's correct.
There is a third variance, but that's for expansion of a non-existing.
Right.
Pre-existing
Pre-existing
non-conforming
non-conforming
use. Right.
Thank you.
Anything else to add? Yes, sir. Well, as has been testified to, these are very minimal expansions. They will enhance the safety on the front steps, allow people approaching the front door to stay dry. Also, the mudroom is further back from the honeymoon lane than the existing structure, and will not really further impact this setback line, and will not impact honeymoon lane at all. I'd be in favor of granting this variance, and if others are in agreement, I'd love to hear a motion.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair. We've had these porticos or coverings on this porch time and time again over the years. I don't see why this shouldn't be passed. I'll make that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford,
Yes.
so moved.
Okay, so we'll have the resolution for you at the next meeting, and then you can submit for your permits. Thank you. Good luck with your addition.
Thank you so much.
Next matter is Columbia Road, DA 0424.
Good night.
Good night.
No,
Can you please turn on the microphone? Thank you.
Rich, your microphone too.
Oh, Rich. You have to- Okay. Our next application is J-04-24, Columbia Road Partners LLC, Block 9003, Lot 1065 Columbia Road in the OSBU zone for Section D. This is a continuation from the May 20th, 2024 public hearing. The applicant proposes construction and installation of 3 padel ball courts with a fence height of 13.2 feet exceeding the allowable height for tennis court fences.
And before you started, just for the board and Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to point out that at the last meeting, we had indicated it would continue on July 22nd unless an earlier date could be arranged with notice, which has now happened since it's June 24th for their continuation, but the continuation is with notice, which were properly served upon owners within 200 feet and noticed in the newspaper, so the board has continuing jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, board professionals. Frederick Zelli, Post Pollock, on behalf of the applicant. We did meet before you on May 20th, got through quite a bit of our application. The board had some concerns. There were neighbors present who had some concerns, primarily with buffering and so forth. So we have addressed that with the neighbors. We'll be showing you what the outcome of that has been. The board also had concerns with lighting and what would be required there. We have submitted revised plans more than 10 days in advance of the meeting, and you should have them in front of you. I have 3 witnesses this evening to be sworn in, but it's my intention at this point to only call one. The other 2 will be present if there are questions it's more appropriate for them to answer. Specifically, John Manilio will be standing in for the engineer who was here before. He will be going over the engineering plans, the revised plans with you. We'll also have Kevin Costello and Matthew Rizzuto, who are principals of the applicant, should there be any more applicant-specific questions as opposed to engineering questions. Before we get started, though, I do want to thank you all for accommodating us this evening instead of in July. That is a major thing for our client if we're approved this evening for them to be able to get these boards up and run, these courts up and running. I think you're familiar with what the application is overall, but just as a quick overview, we're seeking to replace an existing, aging, and obsolete clay tennis court with 3 padel ball courts. This is a up-and-coming sport here in our country, but very popular worldwide. We believe it's going to be a very nice addition for the community's use. That being said, unless the board has any questions for me, I will turn it over to Mr. Manilio once everybody's been sworn in.
Okay. Would you stand, raise your right hand, please, and Kate? You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And again, just for the record, James?
Everyone's name and.
Sure. So legal name is Giovanni, Giovanni. Last name Manilio, Manilio.
Okay.
Just name and.
Yeah, Kevin Costello, Costello, with the applicant.
Matthew Rizzuto, Rizzuto.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Manilio, I'm going to ask you to please, well, first of all, let's get you qualified. You're a licensed professional engineer of the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
Okay, would you give the board a quick overview of your educational and professional background?
Sure. So I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Syracuse University. I've been practicing as a professional engineer in the state for the past 16 years in good standing, also licensed in the state of New York. Testified in front of numerous boards throughout the state of New Jersey. I can't say I've testified in front of this board, but I have testified in front of other boards in Morris County, including Chatham, Denville, East Hanover, Long Hill, Mount Olive, Randolph, Washington, to name a few.
License is in good standing?
It's in good state. I'd ask Mr. Manilio to be qualified as an expert in the field of professional engineering.
Qualified.
Thank you. Mr. Manilio, would you please just take us through the existing plans as they are, and you can highlight any changes that have been made since the original application?
Sure, so I'm logged into Zoom. I'm not sure if I could share my screen.
Sure.
Sure. Let's get into settings here. Does it see me on it? Oh, there it is. Join us now. Got it.
Is that controlled in the other room? They control that, the Zoom is through, in the other room? Like the host is in the other room?
Yes.
All right, so this is the revised plans that were submitted 10 days prior to the meeting, with the last revision date of June 3rd, 2024. So just go briefly, I know this was touched upon last time. On the upper left-hand corner of the plans that were submitted is the existing conditions plan. In the dark highlighted box is the area of concern or area of the site plan. As you can see in the middle is the existing clay tennis court that was in that area. And then I'll lead you to the middle of the page, which shows the proposed padel courts. So there's 3 of them, as described earlier, basically in the same footprint of the old tennis courts. And further up on the page is a isometric and side view of the proposed courts and fencing. I just want to zoom in right here to the variance that we're seeking tonight, which is the height of the fencing or paneling that's on this court. So everything's converted from metric into feet. So as you can see, and as testified at the last meeting, the court is surrounded by either a tempered glass panel, which are shown here as a white box on either side of the court. And that's 9.84 feet. For our simplicity, we're calling it 10 feet on our plans. And then the black kind of mesh area is a mesh wire fence that's located along the center of the court. And additionally, on top of that, at the ends of the court, there's another little over 3 feet of protection. That's another mesh that protects any balls from going out of the area. So ultimately, the variance that we're asking for is a variance of 13 feet 2 inches for the height of the fence, where 10 feet is permitted. Actually, I believe 6 feet is permitted for the ordinance. And lastly, what we're showing here also as well are the light poles that are associated with the courts shown here. So there's 4, 2 on each side of the court with a height of 20 feet, and they are straight down, so there's no angle to those lights, and they are LED. And that'll lead me to the second page of our plans.
Let me just ask you, are the heights of those lights within tolerances, or do we require variance?
They are in conformance with the requirements for illuminated courts.
Okay.
So the second page of our sheet is a lighting plan and landscaping plan. So this has been updated to show the foot candles of the lighting illumination and represents the height of the fixtures. So there's technically 8 fixtures mounted on 4 poles per court, and they're all mounted 20 feet. The court is a minimum of about 52 feet from the closest property line to the south, and approximately 87 feet to the property line to the east. In accordance with the township's ordinance, there is a conditional ordinance for recreational uses with illumination. Just go through it real quick as far as compliance. It says such illumination shall not operate before 7 a.m. or after 11 p.m. And shall not be operated when recreational uses are not in use. On our plans, we did show that they will be operational until 10 p.m. There were several conversations with the operations and with the neighbors, and we're going to revise that condition to be 9 p.m. And that's something that was agreed to with the residents. And I think our clients and the applicant wants to be good neighbors and work with neighbors as far as illumination. B, it says in order to prevent direct or indirect glare, all lighting fixtures for private recreational uses shall be designed and located so that no part of the light source is visible directly or indirectly from any adjoining property or public street. Again, all the lights are directly facing downward. There's no angle to it. So the actual light source will not be visible from any of the neighbors. Additionally, all the neighbors to the east and south are actually, their elevation is higher than the court, so they will not be able to look up and see the actual fixture. C, no light providing illumination for recreational uses shall be mounted at a height above surrounding grade that exceeds 20 feet for tennis courts or 10 feet for all other uses. Surrounding grade shall mean the lower of the average existing grade within 10 feet of the fixture prior to any regrading. For the purposes of compliance with this section, or the average proposed grade within 10 feet of the fixture. Again, there's no change in grade, so we are proposing a fixture that is mounted at 20 feet in height, which will be in compliance with this condition.
Mr. Manilio, in your professional opinion, is a ball court analogous to a tennis court for purposes of this kind of analysis?
Yes.
I'm just going to ask Mr. Holder about that. What about the ordinance there? Because it's 20 feet for tennis courts. Should we just include that as a variance?
You know, I
just in
think,
case?
I think we should, but it's ultimately, you know, an interpretation of the board if of this court and that is the equivalent of a tennis court, because the ordinance speaks in those terms.
To err on the side caution, I would
Yeah,
agree.
but I would include
I
it.
would
Yeah.
like that. But what about other board members? Would they rather include it as a variance or just go with the agreement that it's a tennis lighting in conform with tennis court? Mr. Benoit, what would you think?
I kind of think that we should state it in the word, state it in the approval that we're approving those amounts.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me to include it as a variance, and then, you know, ultimately the township committee could amend, you know, things change, right? New
Agreed. And
sports
our
come
notice does
about.
include the council language.
Yeah, and, you know, it doesn't say tennis court or similar, it just says tennis court, and it's not tennis, so I would include it. But it's something for the township committee to address at some future date for some ordinance amendment.
Yeah, we're acknowledging the,
Yeah,
And also keeps us on the straight and narrow with regard to the ordinance.
right.
Okay.
No problem. Letter D, in order to prevent light trespass, all light fixtures used to provide illumination for recreational uses shall be designed, located, and constructed so that the maximum illumination from such sources at the property line does not exceed 0.1 foot candles. So our lighting plans do show that we do not exceed 0.1 foot candles. Actually, for a majority of all the adjoining property lines, we are at 0 foot candles. Just at this one corner, the south corner, for 5 feet, we are at 0.1 foot candles, again, which is in compliance with the condition. And again, when this is modeled in the program, it does not take into account any landscaping, any buffering, any elevation changes. It's almost in a vacuum, almost like you're in the Midwest in a field with nothing in the way. So if anything, there will be even less illumination at that property. E, no part of a recreational use with illumination and no light fixtures serving such use shall be located within any minimum required front, side, or rear yard. This zone does not have any bulk requirements. As such, we comply with that requirement as well. F, all private recreational uses for illumination shall be screened from adjoining properties by staggered rows of evergreen trees planted 10 feet on center and having a minimum height at planting of 8 feet. So as you can see in our plan, this is one of the changes to our plans. We show two things. We show the base map that we used was the old site plans. So what we're showing here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 previously planted trees that were part of the 2019 application, and those are presently out there, and we can confirm that. We are proposing 17 double row staggered of green giant arborvitaes that will be 8 feet, and they're planted, and that's on our property, and that's to provide a screen around the entire port system from the residential neighbors. There's no need to screen it off of Columbia Road, since we do have that dome structure that's there right now, or the inflated structure. And additionally, there was agreements with the neighbors to plant trees on their properties as well. So we are planting 4 arborvitaes on number 26 Normandy. And then there's a series of 6 trees. I believe they're Colorado spruce, and confirm what the other one is. White pines. that we are proposing on number 24 Normandy. And again, that's in conversations and coordination with those neighbors as well.
Mr. Manilio, in your professional opinion, even though we don't have setback requirements in the zone, do you believe that the lighting is sufficiently set back, especially with the buffering, to prevent any detriment to the neighbors?
Yes, and given the fact that we meet the requirements for the illumination at the property lines, I believe that the port and the lights themselves are set back.
I have nothing further for Mr. Manilio at the moment.
I have a question on the arborvitae that you're gonna plant. You said they're gonna be 8 feet when they go in, and what's gonna be like their maximum height when they're fully mature?
I don't know off the top of my head how tall they grow, but I know they could grow up to 35, 40 feet, if not.
Board members, any questions?
Chairman,
Yes.
actually, part of the question for Mr. Hanson. The lawyer witness said that the ordinance is for 6 feet fencing. This is for basically tennis court. Is it 10 feet or is it 6 feet?
We were gonna call it a tennis court, we allow 10 foot on the end zones of a tennis court with 6 foot down the sides.
6 foot down.
We're not calling this a tennis court.
Okay.
Therefore, the variance is for greater than 6 foot.
Okay, thank you.
And these dimensions for these courts, they're the regulation size?
Per the testimony at the last meeting, yes, that's correct.
They're smaller than a tennis court, right?
Yeah.
For this sport.
For this sport, that's correct.
Yeah, they're approximately a third of the size.
Are these walls going to be plain colored or any graphics on them?
Negative.
Good, thank you. I shouldn't say good, I apologize. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, any members of the public with any questions? Seeing none, hearing none, close the public portion. Any other witnesses?
No other witnesses, unless the board has questions that haven't been addressed yet by Mr. Manilio. I think all the other factual testimony took place at the first meeting.
Any members of the public wish to say anything regarding this application?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Nader. I'm 24 Normandy Parkway. And N like Nancy, A-D-E-R, Nader.
Are we doing comments now or just questions?
No, you said questions were closed. I'm just giving a comment.
Do you have any other witnesses? No. You're done? All right, why don't we jump to comments then?
Yes.
Would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear that any testimony you give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Did you say 24?
24 Normandy Parkway. Our property is actually the only one that shares my entire backyard is with Twin Oaks or whatever we call it now. I don't know. I've lost track with the applicant. So they have been very helpful in meeting with us several times on site. Our concerns were sound. And so the 9 p.m. closing is a big deal for us because my bedroom faces over. I can see the dome from our bedroom balcony. So any lights or any sound, in this case, we're not worried about lights because it's lower, but any sound would definitely be an issue. So we appreciate the 9 p.m. Also the placement of the trees and not only on our property, which is key because it finally closes off what some other trees that were planted in the last round of variance hearing, but also on the actual property themselves around the courts. I think it's helpful. We don't really know with this Padel what it sounds like, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be like what's the other one called? Pickleball. That would be a very different conversation I think I'd be having right now with everyone. So I think, we're optimistic that will be okay. As it is now, we do hear the kids practicing on the fields. And for the most part, it's just kind of like the background summer noise. Sometimes it's a little annoying, but it's okay. So I think all in all, I know the other neighbors are not here, but I think that means that everyone feels like as long as these installations go in as discussed, that we're going to be okay with hopefully the results. Thank you.
Board members, any questions of this one? Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
I have, okay, go ahead.
Are the lights gonna be automatic on every night, or are you gonna turn them on when you go out to play? Let's say it's, starts raining at 6 o'clock at night.
Gotta be at the mic.
The light's gonna come on?
They will not be automatic. We'll have switches.
I just have one question. The padel courts, they're larger than pickleball courts, correct?
Sorry.
Slightly, yes.
They're slightly larger, so there's no intention that, there's no way these could be converted to mixed use or used for pickleball also in some sort of other
No,
scheme?
the floor is actually turf.
Okay.
And the walls are glass and the net's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Question. So with respect to the plantings on other neighbors' properties, right? You know, I mean, this board doesn't really have jurisdiction over those properties. Those properties aren't part of the application. Have you entered into, or will you be entering into a written agreement with those neighbors that's enforceable with respect to the maintenance of those plants?
I don't, Mr. Costello, you want to come up for a second? I don't
So
believe
you
we.
could use that microphone.
Oh, thank you.
So far, everything's just been verbal agreements with all the neighbors. We don't have anything written or requested.
Okay, so what happens, you know, you plant that and then a year or two from now, they die?
So I don't know. I mean, we'd agree to make it a condition of approval. If you're saying that's not part of this application, maybe it can't be a condition of approval. We would be open to agreeing to that.
You know, I think if it were on municipal land, there'd be some kind of maintenance bond posted.
Sure.
Right? So, and I'm not suggesting that there be a maintenance bond necessarily, but maybe an agreement that is signed by yourselves and the neighbors that there'd be at least, say, 2 years. A normal maintenance bond, it would be 2 years, right? So some, like, say, 2 years where if anything you planted died, you would replace it.
Okay. We would be open to
Is
that.
that agreeable?
Sure.
That's acceptable. All right. So you think that would be agreeable?
I appreciate that, yes. There was some conversation about that.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Forget.
Definitely appreciate you bringing that up. There was some conversation about, I think your landscaper has some sort of warranty, but it's, those trees can be difficult. They can go either way. So if we can do that, that would be
Sure.
very helpful. Thank
Seems
you.
fair. Okay.
Board members, any other questions? Yes.
You're gonna make a condition of approval that they have written agreements with property owners?
Yeah, yeah.
Plantings off the project site won't be part of our inspection then. Completeness and finally out contract. Or do we have to pay attention to off-site?
Well, it's on your landscape plan. I'd like you to pay attention to it, I think, just to confirm that the landscape plan is constructed to the plan that the board is saying, right?
We have no objection to that.
I'll
It's
just
just that
make
we
one-
can't enforce things if they die off of that property.
That would be the neighbor.
All right, then
Right.
we'll include that as part of the project.
Okay.
I'll just note, Mr. Riley, who he's not here, but he's getting the 4 trees. He's doing a larger landscaping of his backyard. We're contributing those 4 trees, but he's told us, hey, if they're slightly slid around or moved, he's like, I'd like to work with the landscaper on that. So the naders, that's exactly where they're going. The ones around our courts, that's exactly where they're going. Those 4, we'd like some flexibility on how that's going to fit into his landscape plan. It's still going to be a buffer, but exact location might change slightly. Species, size is all the same.
So which property is that?
It's labeled as that.
Is it?
It is?
Okay. I didn't know if that made that on there. That's great.
Okay.
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 Yeah, final tree location to be determined by homeowner.
Great.
Okay.
So do we review the conditions?
Yeah, so there were a couple of conditions, and maybe they change a little based on the timing of the light turn off, but one of them was that the hours of operation would be from May through October, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Does that change to 9 p.m. now? Right? Okay, you're going to add the landscaping per your new landscape plan. There'll be no outdoor speakers. There'd be no pickleball play on the courts, right?
On these courts, correct?
On these courts, yeah. You might have it elsewhere, I guess, already? No?
No, not on
Not on the
this
site
property.
ever?
Not on
No.
this property, no.
Okay.
Are you okay with that being a condition of approval though? Because that's not officially part of this application one way
Well,
or the other.
if they're in,
Well, because it's a whole different world if,
It
how you
is.
answer that.
Well,
Because they're okay with what you're doing because it's quiet.
Let's say outdoor, right?
well, that's, yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
no,
It's
no
not-
outdoor
not-
pickleball.
Only outside.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have an indoor facility that changes it.
Right. right, okay. All right. The lights will not be turned on automatically at any time. And you'll enter into that maintenance agreement with the neighbors to replace any landscaping that dies within 2 years of planting. Okay?
Agreed.
so what are the variances we have to?
Oh, we're adding the variance for it would be 13.2 feet versus 10 feet in height, right? Since, I'm sorry, 6? Right, sorry, right, you said that. So it's 13.2 versus 6 permitted for the height. And the lighting, where you didn't satisfy our conditional zoning,
95-37.
yeah, I'm just looking for my note. Okay, it was M. No, you were good with M. Everything faced down. Which ones didn't you satisfy in there?
I think 1C for light height of 20 feet for,
1C height.
or it says 20 feet permitted
Oh,
for tennis
20 feet
courts
on
or
the
10
height.
feet for other uses.
And we're 20,
We're at 20 feet.
so
Right.
20 feet where 10 is permitted when it's
Yeah.
not tennis court.
Is that technically applicable here? Because it's not residential, we're looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd rather have it in rather than somebody
Yeah,
complain about it
I agree,
later.
it provides guidance.
Yeah.
And then we need a D2.
Right, because we're expanding a non-conforming use, right?
Any other variants?
I think that's it, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the screen addition and with the cooperation with the neighbors, I'm all in favor of this project. I think it's a good project. It's ambitious and it will enhance the facility. And I'd be in favor of it. And I'd hear comments from the other board members and not, I'd like to hear a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and I don't normally ask this, but when we only have 5 members sitting on a use variance, if we could hear some representation prior to a vote from each member, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, and let me point out to the board, so really what he's getting at is, as the board knows, as a use variance, this is the D2 variance, they need 5 affirmative votes to get an approval. So, you can kind of tell us what you think.
I'm in favor of approval.
Yeah, I don't see much of it.
I really appreciate the cooperation between the applicant and the neighborhood. I think that's 100%. I'm in favor.
Concur with everything.
Okay.
Thank you. Then we're
So,
comfortable with the vote.
If you'd
Thank
like
you
to
very
go
much.
forward, okay.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Santiago.
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit.
Yes.
Mr. Kramer.
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So moved.
And we have one request. Because of the timing of this, obviously, we're trying to get these up and running. May we apply for our permits before the resolution's passed? And just get the applications in?
Outside of our pay grade, it's going to be up to construction,
Okay.
really. Okay.
We can submit the paperwork, they'll review it, they'll put it in the file. When they get the resolution, that's the day after the next meeting, they'll issue the permit.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
And if there's problems with the permits, they can talk to your professionals and your contractors and get it straightened out.
Perfect. Thank you.
But my new favorite court reporter is going to have your transcript pretty quickly.
That seems to be the standard way.
Yes, I see him all the time now. That's why I say that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, board members, any other business? Fans, anything?
Nope.
Anything? No, anything?
Nothing.
Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Wow.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.